Guess what day it is? Guess what day it is? Huh? Anybody? Leslie, guess what today is?
It's hump day.
Woo-woo!
Guess what today is? It's hump day. Happy hump day, everyone. Welcome to the Do What Is Necessary live stream. Coming to you live from a cloudy Columbus, Ohio. So anybody else from the OH in the house, give me a shout out in the comments. Let me know where you're tuning in from. Obviously, if you're tuning into the show, let me know you can hear me okay. Everything's coming through, and we'll get through all that technical stuff out of the way first off. Let me know in the comments, too, if this is the first time that you're catching the show or whether or not you're a repeat guest. I'm always excited about the folks who have returned week after week since we started this show. We started this show on April Fool's Day of last year, one of the toughest years on record for all of us. And it was a means of therapy for me to do this show, to help fellow entrepreneurs. I started my business, my last tech business in 2004. I lived through 2008 recession, and I know how lonely it is during tough times when you're running a business. It's lonely anyway, but I started this show as a way of celebrating the entrepreneurs out there, especially those tech entrepreneurs, which I have a tremendous affinity for. Spending 30 years in the tech industry. So if you're tuning in, let me know in the comments where you're watching the show from. And if you happen to be catching this on the replay, put that in the comments too, because I do watch all of these comments. I reply to all the comments on every one of my shows. So if you're watching this after the fact, a day, 2 week down the road, put that in the comments. Let me know where you're tuning in from. So if this is your first time here, you have absolutely no idea who I am. I am Andrew Moon. I run a company called Orange Nomad. I turn hustling entrepreneurs into calm, unstoppable CEOs. And this is a show dedicated to throwing out the hustle and grind, work yourself into the ground mentality that has been puked on us for years as entrepreneurs. This is about living a calm life and doing what is absolutely necessary for you. So let's welcome some others to the show. Dave from Surrey, British Columbia, welcome back to the show. We appreciate you being with us today, Dave, and all of our repeat guests that are tuning in. So if you're just joining us here, let me know in the comments where you're tuning in from. We're going to introduce our guest here in a minute. But yeah, I'm excited about my intro music this week. My son actually recorded that and surprised me with that last week. So that I actually set up his domain name yesterday. We don't have the site up yet. But if you'd like a personalized podcast intro, live stream intro, let me know. We can get you hooked up. One of the talents he picked up over COVID, he's been playing guitar for a while, but he picked up music processing and mixing over since COVID. So welcome, Sam Harris from the Berg. I grew up about a half hour outside of Pittsburgh, so I have a strong affinity for all things black and gold and orange. I know most of our nemesis in the Pittsburgh area were teams from Ohio that wear orange. All right, so without further ado, we're going to talk about embracing change. And needless to say, like the change that all of us have undergone over the last year has been of epic proportions. Like this is just off the charts, how much change all over the world. So this isn't affecting one part of the globe. So we're going to talk about change in the IT industry, change what we see coming up. So please help me welcome our guest to the show this week, Mr. Ben Spector, to the show.
Hello, thanks for having me.
Awesome. So let's get things kicked off here. I appreciate you taking the time. I know it's evening time, and we always have a strong UK contingent. So if you're watching from the UK, say what's up to my friend Ben coming to us from across the pond. Ben, I'm excited to have you on the show this week because you and you connected. I saw you on Richard Tubbs' show a couple weeks ago, and we connected shortly after that because both of us are former MSPs, former IT providers. And we all have a story to tell, that is for sure. So why don't you tell everybody, a little bit about yourself and how you managed to get into the crazy industry that is the IT industry and specifically the MSP industry.
Sure. Well, first thing, funny thing is, the power of change. When I told my partner what, the subject for today's talk, first thing he said was, "But you hate change," and and when I look at it, I really do. I'm a proper stickler for habit. But anyway, yeah. To answer the question, I went to university, studied engineering, electrical electronic engineering, way too much maths, absolutely hated it. Spent 3 years at university, but only actually completed one of them. I tried this, started the second year, dropped out, started the second year again, dropped out, and thought, you know what? I just, I was not built for this. The maths was too much. So I actually ended up working for one of my neighbors, doing a few days a week. He ran a small break fix IT support company, and he was going to New York for a holiday. And he said, Ben, can you cover the phones for a couple of weeks while I'm on holiday? Nothing more, nothing less. Literally, just need you to cover the phones. Calls come in, pick them up. If you need to jump in your car, go off and help save the world. Do us a favor. Needless to say, 2 weeks became months and months became years, and nearly a year and a half later, I was still working there with him. And it got to a point where I thought, okay, well, engineering didn't work out, and I have no idea what else I'm going to do. So I started doing a bit of freelance IT consulting. And I bet this is a really familiar story for most of the current MSPs. I think everyone starts out as an independent IT consultant doing little bits of project work. Then the projects never go away. Once you've done the implementation and you've helped them deploy whatever you were there to deploy, the support calls start coming in. And so then you end up being an IT consultant with this barrage of support calls coming at you that are distracting you from your work. So then brought on board my first employee. My God, that was terrifying. First, yeah, going from working in my bedroom basically to taking on £400 a month. That's what, $600 a month of rent for a small two-person office in London, and my first employee 3 days a week who was kind of an assistant, and then before I knew it, the business was growing, the support was coming in. And in around 2014, 2015, the whole concept of MSP was new to me. I had no idea what an MSP was. And I think probably like a lot of people listening to this now, they've gone into this world in a particular way with no idea that there is a tried and tested business model out there. There are tried and tested communities of people that understand the business model, have honed and refined the business model. And so there are MSPs that went before us. And in a way, you and I, Andrew, we're the MSPs that have been before the ones that are getting to take advantage of our learnings. So I started trying to pivot this break fix IT support business into something that would develop recurring revenue. And I had no idea that there were thousands of MSPs out there who'd been there, done that. I spent tens, hundreds of thousands of pounds on marketing over the years, trying to learn, well, making my own mistakes, learning from my own mistakes. Well, usually not learning from my own mistakes, but trying to learn from my mistakes. Mostly just spending a shitload of money making mistakes. And then, yeah, spent the next few years kind of pivoting properly towards an MSP business model. Grew quite successfully. It was pretty much doubling year on year growth, until finally, obviously COVID hit end of 2019, beginning of 2020, and an opportunity came about to offload. I say offload, to sell the business and to move on. And so I spent most of 2020 pulling together that deal. Anyone who's been through an acquisition will know quite how excruciating the due diligence process is and the thousands of pages of paperwork you need to assemble. And then we were acquired towards the end of 2020, and I got off very, very lightly with a 3-month consultancy handover period, which kind of took me into Christmas, New Year, and over the rainbow. The rest is history.
Nice. So let's talk about, so it sounds like you ran your MSP for, you said, the MSP part anyway, from about 2014 to 2019, so about 5 years. What would you say you enjoy the most? And I know, we all get into the IT industry for various reasons. Like, what did you enjoy the most about the IT industry?
If you'd asked me at the time, I'd have given you one answer, and asking me now, I give you a completely different answer. I thought I enjoyed leading the technical projects and being that technical leader to our engineering team. I definitely didn't enjoy the commercial side of things. This stereotype of selling and sales and account management, I really struggled with. So I thought I was enjoying the technical projects. What it's turned out I was actually enjoying was the internal technical projects way more than the client facing projects. So spent a lot of my time fine tuning our Autotask platform, automating everything, getting it really well integrated with all the other tools we were using. Um, so yeah, it's an interesting one. I thought I enjoyed the client projects, but what I really enjoyed was the stuff that wasn't making us any money, that those internal projects.
And we find that a lot. It's just like you get stuck in a rabbit hole after rabbit hole after rabbit hole in the IT industry. It's like it's like playing whack-a-mole all day. A lot of times. They have whack-a-mole over there in the UK?
Yeah, they do. It
Is
takes
it?
me back to school days and fairgrounds and the like rats and the drain pipes.
Yep. Exactly. I remember the first time I played that. So Sam, I'm sure you're familiar with Kennywood, being in Pittsburgh there. And that's where I first learned whack-a-mole. And it just, like, when I realized that that's how it felt running the IT business at times, I was just like it's exhausting. Yeah, I mean, it's just like you're playing whack-a-mole all day long. And it just,
Constantly.
yeah. So what were some of the challenges that you ran into running an MSP? And it's specific, maybe ones that you weren't prepared for running a company.
I guess first up, I was doing it pretty young. I was doing this straight out of college, school, university. So I didn't have the leadership skills. I didn't have the management training. I'd never worked in anything bigger than this, than my friend's break fix company before. So the biggest challenge was probably managing the people, finding the right people, managing the right people, and then retaining the right people, especially on the commercial side. As a skilled engineer, it's easy to identify engineers who know what they're talking about, and it's easy to understand them. But finding and retaining good people to run the commercial elements of the business, sales and account management, was really tough.
So, I think, that's something that we tech guys, like, we get into that side of the business. And like, for me, being an introvert, that sales process was always super unnerving. Um, and it's funny because I went 10 years before you. I started my MSP in 2004, and like RMM tools, like PSA, all of that was in its diapers. I remember it was like the first couple of years just trying to figure out what works, what's going to allow me to build on. So I was all in the tools. And before, like I said, 2008 hit, I was 4 years into running an MSP with a 4-year-old kid at home. So I'm like, oh crap, now what? Now I actually have to learn how to start building this thing if I'm gonna have something, maybe for my son to take over, or just be able to see him through to high school. So yeah, that's we all get into. So what did you seek out? What ways did you try to solve that problem of the sales and marketing, the process?
Throwing money at the problem.
Yeah.
Time and time again, it was just throwing money at the problem. Hire a marketing agency, tell them they were crap because they weren't delivering. Hire another marketing agency, tell them they were crap because they weren't delivering. I'm sure these marketing agencies that bore the brunt of my frustration knew exactly what they were doing, and I'm sure they were delivering the services they were promising. Problem is, I definitely didn't have the sales expertise to take the marketing leads and the stuff we were generating from the marketing and actually convert those deals. But also, we didn't have the mechanics in place to do the marketing properly. When we, in terms of the tech stack at my MSP, we started using Autotask PSA in about 2014, and then we added QuoteWorks in about 2015, and then HubSpot in about 2017. And it wasn't really until we added HubSpot that I really came to terms with and understood the concept of marketing funnels. HubSpot makes that really easy. So I learned a hell of a lot about marketing from HubSpot. And it finally gave the marketing agencies a platform through which to actually properly deliver their service rather than giving us all of this content, giving us all of this advice, but really it just coming down to us implementing new stuff on the website and hoping for the best.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, it doesn't work like that.
Yeah. And it's, I was always looking for that one thing, okay, you're going to start marketing from zero. Like I was not doing any marketing. So I was constantly looking for that shiny penny, that one thing that's going to make the cash register ring, like immediately. Did you kind of go on the same rabbit search yourself?
Yeah, and I think I've had this conversation over the last few months with quite a few MSPs. In the role I'm in, I speak to a lot of MSPs at varying levels of success and varying sizes. And I think I was really confusing the concept of lead generation and marketing, and they're not really the same thing. Marketing is a very slow process where you have to be very consistent and you have to keep doing it. And it's one of those machines that you don't notice it's been turned on for many, many months, and you don't notice it's been turned off for many, many months. The problem is once you turn it off and it's all started to slow down, when you turn it back on again, you've got a really slow on ramp to see any success. Versus lead generation, which I think is what you're talking about really with that dollars in the till
Mm.
kind of process. And it's very difficult, I think, to find effective lead generation mechanisms that just deliver overnight. You've got to invest holistically in your marketing and really invest holistically. I think the biggest mistakes I've made with marketing has been spending all of my budget on the one bit that I think we need. Blowing several $1,000s rebuilding a website doesn't work. Several $1,000s doing paid advertising without the landing pages doesn't work. Just throwing money at the bits that I think we need to do one at a time, and then saying marketing doesn't work.
Yep.
And it's only really after I've left the business and now can really take a step back and look at, wow, I was really stupid, like really stupid. How did I think that just doing those individual bits was going to work? And so now, when I have these conversations with other MSPs, explaining to them the difference between marketing and lead generation and how they can't expect overnight leads unless they go and pay someone to hammer the phones, and how if they spend all of their budget on the one vanity project that they think they need, guaranteed it's not going to deliver anything.
Yeah. And that's what and it was like, I would do that. Okay, let's go do telemarketing. Okay, nothing happened. All right, let's go do some SEO. Nothing happened. It was like you were just trying one thing after another. And finally, like I kind of, I bought every single course that was out there, was in peer groups, and did all, I probably was like you, spent well over 6 figures trying to figure that out in like 2010, 2011. And then in 2012, I was just like, okay, I don't think content's the issue. Like there's plenty of content now. Now there's even more. And I don't think content is an issue in the MSP industry. So I went on an information diet and actually just started implementing one thing at a time, got really good at it. We started with just a print newsletter. And I was like, okay, it didn't generate anything immediately, but I just kept at it. And that was just, we built a system and a process around that before we went tackling the next thing. And then, like I said, I stumbled on the LinkedIn thing, and That's a lot of what I've been doing since out of the MSP game, because everybody's like, okay, help me figure out this LinkedIn thing. And it's an interesting dichotomy now because everybody's trying to figure out the LinkedIn thing, but everybody's trying to sell stuff on LinkedIn. And so when I tell them that's not how it works, and it's not how it worked back in 2012, 2014 when I sold, you've got to invest in that relationship. And when I finally got that somebody connecting on LinkedIn is just a micro commitment. It is, like, you cannot go straight to the sale because you haven't deposited enough, trust with them to make that kind of a deposit out of them and ask them for a sale or anything for that matter. And it was funny because now when I talk to MSPs, I still see people doing that. And now there's even more agencies and marketing companies out there that are lining up to take MSPs money because that still seems to be a problem. So you and I both are like, we've, kind of having that 50,000 foot view, being out of the game. Like, what would you say continues to be that challenge, especially since we're not post-COVID yet, but how do you see that changing going forward?
The industry as a whole, or the sort of sales and marketing problem?
Let's tackle the sales and marketing thing first, and then we'll kind of talk about, where we see the industry going and some of the challenges that we see facing the MSP industry, but also the opportunities.
Sure. So I think first and foremost, this really cheesy concept of the trusted advisor is not going anywhere. You're right. What you said, it's all about the relationships. I had this really stupid sales manager working with me for a while who would come running to me excited as soon as someone accepted his LinkedIn request, as you'd said. And he'd be like, "Hey, Ben, they've accepted my LinkedIn request. We basically closed the deal." And I was just like, that's not how it works. Maybe in 6 to 12 months you might be able to close that deal, but it's not. You haven't closed the deal by getting a LinkedIn connection.
Yeah.
Um,
Go ahead.
in terms of where's it going, I wish I knew more about marketing. I'm gradually uncovering it and speaking to a lot of MSPs that are able to give me these insights into the things that are and aren't working. But I don't know. I feel like LinkedIn's become rather saturated. A lot of people are now saying, "Hey, it's just another Facebook," and to an extent, I I don't want to say I agree, but I am starting to feel a little bit fatigued by LinkedIn, especially the daily memes. What's the difference between a boss and a leader? And all these hashtag leadership posts, people talking about. I saw one yesterday. Some outside some guy's house, there was a row of parked cars, and they'd all parked with two wheels up on the curb. And in the UK, you're not allowed to do that. If you park partly on the curb, you'll get a ticket for obstructing the walkway. And he'd made this leadership comment about how all of these cars, because one person had followed the next, and they'd all parked partly on the curb, thinking they were allowed to because somebody else had, and how that represented leadership and thinking for yourself. And I was just like, I'm so done with today. I am so done with today. I can't do LinkedIn anymore.
Yeah, and I think that, the LinkedIn gurus out there, it's. I've tried to distance myself from what we do because my approach has always been the same, but it takes time, and nobody wants to wait the time. Nobody wants to have a different conversation on LinkedIn than everybody else is having. To me, I agree with you that, there's a lot of people that says, okay, this is the message you send out. This is what you have to do. And I bought into it. I was part of a coaching program in the MSP industry that said, hey, connect with people on LinkedIn and just start hammering the crap out of them with sales messages. Eventually somebody, and it's weird because it's like when you get somebody who has that immediate need at that point in time, and maybe you close a sale, you're like, okay, that works. I'm going to keep doing that. And I think putting yourself in a prospect's shoes, the people you're connected with in their shoes, everybody feels the same way that you do. Like I'm the same way. It's that constant barrage of stuff on LinkedIn. So I'm pretty selective with what groups I belong to and people. I can pretty much tell now Like when somebody sends me a connection request, like just looking at their profile, I know what's coming next. And I've tested it a few times. Like literally, I'm like, okay, let's see how long this takes. And I've had, one, it was literally 30 seconds later. And I'm like, you got to stop doing that. But, I think from a marketing perspective, I think the difference that MSPs need to have now is that you need to be a person behind the company. I think now that people are much more invested in IT, and IT has a solid place at the table now, instead of being just in the janitor's closet, they now have that seat at the table that we've been looking for a long time. That firm seat at the leadership table inside of the companies that we service. So I guess from that aspect, what would your recommendation be to MSPs moving forward in their approach to LinkedIn, in their approach to marketing? And again, there's no silver bullet. It's just what do you think?
That's a really interesting one, and the way you talk about these various functional leaders within the business. Historically, the seat at the table was the table rep was just the main board table, and the people at that table were the shareholders or the owners of the business. And so, as the IT person, you maybe got a seat on that table. Budgets would get signed off at the beginning of the year, not much thought given to it, certainly no flexibility around it. And you've got what you've got to spend. But now the concept of the functional leaders within the business, the HR manager, the finance manager, the purchasing manager, all of these people within the business have very specific IT needs. The HR manager needs these people management tools, and they're not necessarily getting what they need from the CEO deciding, hey, this is our IT budget for the year, and the CEO being the only person involved with those conversations. So if we take that step back and look at the fact that the functional leaders now have unique requirements within the business, it's not okay to say this business as a whole needs this technology. No, it doesn't work like that anymore. Each department within the business is effectively its own business. They have their own technology needs. So each of those functional leaders now has the buying authority to be making decisions about what their unit within the business needs. So, if you're floating around LinkedIn, it's not the CEOs that you need to be impressing. Sure, you might need them to get through the door, but you need to be chatting to the finance managers and chatting to the HR managers and delivering relevant conversations to all of the different relevant people within the business. Um, because there's also an opportunity to enter the businesses from a lower level and work your way up. If the finance manager is looking for a new solution for managing the finance within the business, and they've gone out on their own to find some solution to that, that could be your entry point into the business to deliver the IT requirements for the finance bit of the business, or the same for the HR or marketing, whichever bit of the business it is. And what you said about delivering, sharing that trust, delivering enough collateral into the deal before expecting to get anything out. Yeah, I think when you see people looking for help on LinkedIn, jumping in and being that helpful person, don't have an agenda. Just be a helpful, good person. And if you go out and give, inevitably stuff starts to come back to you.
Yeah, I couldn't agree with you more. So I'm going to give you a cowbell for that one, man. So if that's your takeaway,
I need one of these soundboards. I'm going to start getting on Zoom calls next week and giving people jangles.
I was screwing around before I set up. I got another stream deck. That's what I was doing about an hour before the show. I got all kinds of sounds messaged in there. But I think, you touched on that right there is, again, the human side of things. I know that was that's the challenge that I have, is just reeling people back, because you need that sale. I need to close this next deal to make payroll or something like that. So everybody approaches LinkedIn the same way. And it has never worked. I don't know why people think that changed just because COVID's here, but that has never worked on LinkedIn, that hammering sales message. And I had one the other day. I actually had an MSP that I was connected to. There's gurus out there that say, hey, go make, give people, I forget what it's called. It's not the recommendations, which are like testimonials. It's the other thing on like skills, like recommended skill.
Yeah.
So somebody did that, and I'm like, okay, so I did what a human would do. I said, thank you. It came back like his very next message is, hey, we sell cybersecurity. When you need a cybersecurity assessment, and he just rambled on, and I'm like, delete. And that's the thing. That's what your prospects are going to do. Like, that doesn't work. Like, I was saddened at one time, at just seeing that still, because I know that there's certain gurus out there that teach that methodology, and like, I hate it. Anyway, I could go off all day on stuff that I hate. But I think,
don't provoke Andrew when it comes to bad use of LinkedIn.
But it's, this right here, I wish I had more when I was running my MSP. Like I know you and I talked, pre-show, but this live stream, like, it has done more for our business and our community, the IT community, than I ever would have imagined when we started it. And when I look at months where we didn't have shows, I can directly correlate that to sales. And if you see in any of my shows, I don't do any selling on this show. Like, I have never done sales of any kind on this show. And
it's just giving. It's the opportunity to give. And, from a personal perspective, there's a lot of satisfaction in just giving. And doing something like this, okay, yeah, I'm not going to say it doesn't cost anything, but in real terms, it's very low cost. You can personally enjoy giving, and people don't forget that. If they know they got good advice from you for free, listening in, and they enjoyed listening, they're naturally going to gravitate towards working with you.
yeah,
And I think it's the same on all the platforms. And what you say about the communities and the stuff that is now available. I think if I was starting a new MSP on Monday morning, I would have so much more success with it, having learned what I've learned, ironically, after leaving my MSP. I only joined the tech tribe like 2 or 3 months ago. I only joined some of these other communities, various Facebook groups, LinkedIn groups. I only joined them after I sold my MSP. I didn't even know they existed. And the amount I've learned in that short period of time about not about how to run an MSP, actually about how not to run an MSP, because I think there's so many profoundly stupid questions asked on these forums with some profoundly stupid answers, and you can look through them and think, okay, that's a really bad idea. I'm not going to do that.
yeah,
And yeah, I think the amount I've learned, it immerse yourself in the community, join these communities, engage with them, go to the events, talk to people, listen to the podcasts. Heck, reach out to people like you and I, because if someone drops in my inbox with some questions and just wants a bit of life advice about being an MSP, I'll be happy to jump on a call with them for half an hour and chat it through if there's an opportunity to help.
yeah. And that was the interesting thing that I still see. So if we talk about, Nigel and I have gone back. We were just on a call last week or the week before. So if you're not part of Tech Tribe, yeah, you owe it to yourself to jump on the Tech Tribe. So orangenomad.com/Tech Tribe will get you 40% off of your first month. And I'm not, anyway, you will recoup the savings so many times over being in that group. But Nigel and I both have that same mindset of just giving everything that we did bad and put it out there so that people don't have to go through those same things over and over again. So Robert, I
had seen, sorry, go on.
I was just going to tell Robert he had a question in there, but I'm going to wait till when it's a product question. So we will get to that in a minute, Robert. I did see your comments, so keep going on the comments. He actually threw one in here now, so I'll save the product stuff for a little bit later. But yeah, Robert Givens, super. Thanks for being back, my friend. Learning when to avoid engaging in forums is a key to not wasting time. Yeah, because that's a whole rabbit hole by itself. Like I've seen things. You and I were talking before the show. I've seen Facebook groups just go completely sideways. Reddit groups, like anyway. I think we spend more time fighting each other than fighting the real problem that MSPs have. Like we're not the problem. Each other, we're not the problem. So, but yeah, just talk about the importance of being part of groups like that and other things that maybe that would have benefited your business being part of maybe a group like the Tech Tribe.
So, using the tech tribe as an example, I dread to think how much time and money I spent crafting a terrible master service agreement, on lawyers trying to get our service agreement nailed down. I don't think in 5 years of trying to do QBRs or TBRs, I ever actually nailed down a good TBR process. And it's so critical to sales. And I can see that way more now. And there's so many of these things, the packaging, good, better, best packaging of your services. I must have updated our packages every 3 months to try and see if different differentiators between them work. All of this stuff is out there for you to pretty much copy and paste. I think one of the really unique things about the MSP community is whereas in every other business, your IP is sacred. Your intellectual property is yours, and you wouldn't dream of sharing it with a competitor. Weirdly, in the MSP community, everyone is desperate to share their IP with their competitors. It's almost like there isn't any competition in the industry. It's bonkers. Any other industry, businesses are in competition with each other. In the MSP community, there's no competition at all. Everyone is desperate to help. Not always wanted, but everyone is desperate to help. And there's this huge communal shared IP. I love it.
Yeah, and that was there was one of the groups that like I would have gladly spent $49 to be part of that group. Nigel's doing some amazing things there. I'm going to put in a link here for those of you who happen to be watching this on the replay. Who wanted that link? Somebody messaged me afterwards. Let me just go ahead and put this up on the screen here in a second. So go ahead and publish that. So yeah, orangenomad.com/tech tribe. I'm going to do a whole, I've got a whole video planned on the benefits of Tech Tribe. And I mean, I can't talk enough about being part of a community. Because in 2008, like I said, I had a 4-year-old at home, a 4-year business that was 4 years old at the same time. And I knew like how lonely that was. And I think I see a lot of that now. A lot of MSPs have fallen out of love with their business. Just for a number of reasons. I mean, COVID, I think, was just kind of the icing on the cake to push some people over the edge or close to the edge at this point. What would your advice be to somebody who's on the fence, since, you're a little closer to making a jump than I was? Like, what would your advice be to an MSP who's thinking about that or just has fallen out of love with their business right now?
Well, that is exactly what happened to me. I fell out of love with my business, and just thinking about it, it was keeping me up at night. It was so stressful, just waiting for that next customer complaint or someone refusing to pay their bill for some stupid reason or some server toppling over on a Sunday afternoon when you're out with your granny. It was just constant stress, and I after 10, 12 years of doing it, I was just so out of luck. So I think what I would say to people is, first of all, your business has a value. It is an asset, and it doesn't have to be you running it. Like when I went into the process of thinking, okay, maybe it's time to get out of my business, I thought, okay, how can I close this down and lose the least money doing it? And then a few people pointed me in a slightly more sensible direction. There's a guy, Daniel Welling, who you may know, does kind of some mergers and acquisition stuff. And he pointed me in a much more sensible direction and said, Ben, you don't need to close it down and lose money in the process. There are people who will buy your business. And I was like, wow, really? And so first of all, your business is an asset. When you get fed up with the car, you sell it, you buy something else. When you get fed up with anything really, you sell it and you do something else, or you build something else, you move house. Nothing in your life is static and has to be like that way. But I think a lot of people get really attached to their business and perhaps don't appreciate it is just an asset. Maybe you started it out of passion and it is your life and you feel like it's your baby, but it's just an asset. Detach yourself from that. If you've fallen out of love, sell it. Do what you would do with anything else that you'd fallen out of love with, except maybe wife or husband or whatever, because I don't think you can sell them, or kids. But you know, you're so if your business is an asset. If you don't love it anymore, you don't want to do it anymore, sell it, move on, do something else.
Yeah.
And there are so many opportunities. And then so this is the other thing. There are so many opportunities. When I looked at, okay, so what comes next? I was terrified. I thought my CV is crap because I've only ever worked for myself. I personally don't think my business was a success because it didn't grow to the scale that I had imagined it growing to. I'm sure to most outsiders, they'd look at me and go, "Oh my God, Ben, you've had so much success and what an incredible business, and you're so young." But I look at it all and I think it's not as big as I wanted it to be. I wasn't making as much money as I wanted it to be. And so, I was just so out of love with it. But crucially, I didn't think there were opportunities for me. Nothing on my CV. Only ever worked for myself. Crappy business. What comes next? But now that I'm out, and pretty much any vendor in the MSP space is going to bite your arm off for the opportunity to have an ex MSP on their staff. And so think, are there any vendors in your business life that you really like working with? You love their product, you admire the way they manage your account. Is there a vendor that you love? Reach out to them and have that conversation with them. Say, reach out maybe on LinkedIn. Great. This is a good use of LinkedIn. Reach out to the CEO of whichever vendor and say, I'm thinking about exiting my MSP and I love what you guys do. I'd love to be a part of it. And I would think, unless you've really upset them in the past somehow, so be nice to your vendors. That's a secret. Um, most vendors would bite your arm off for the opportunity to have another ex MSP on staff, because who knows their target customer better than their target customer?
Yeah, and I think that's where a lot of people feel like they can't, like they are just stuck with their business, like there are no options. Kind of what you were. If you've been running your own IT company for 20 years, people feel like there's no other option. I just got to keep plugging along, trying to make this work. So to me, I think there's three options that you have. Sell it, maybe go work for a vendor like you did. But I think the other option too, if you really love the technology, you want to stay in the industry, like there is
Start
nothing.
again.
There's plenty
Start
of
again. Do it differently.
exactly. Just you have the power to reinvent your business, and I think that to me I see as being the biggest opportunity that COVID has gifted the MSP industry. As everybody is thinking differently, we're forced to think differently about technology and the use of technology in our businesses. We need to, and I see that coming. I've seen it. I've been talking about this for a year. The groundswell, we are right on the cusp of a wave that is coming in the MSP industry. There are a lot of people that know that it's time, one, to sell MSP services differently. What's included in those services, what's standard, and the way that we go about selling MSP services is needed to change for a long time, but that is coming. So if you're bought into and investing in marketing tactics that were from 2008, 2009, those don't work. Those didn't work. They really didn't even work 10 years ago, but I still see them being sold as a way to sell managed services. So I think that is a change that is coming from a positioning standpoint, what we do in our sales and marketing, how we engage people. And I think a lot more needs to come in education. And I think that's an opportunity for a leadership role for an MSP right now. If you want to stay in the MSP game, you have to be seen as a leader, not just a tech leader, a business leader now. because people are they're dying for that. They're dying for that leadership of where to go from a technology aspect, but the actual business implementation of it. So that's that would be my recommendation as well. If you just absolutely don't like the tech and you want to get out, sell it. If you love the tech and you do enjoy parts of running a business, invest in doing things differently. Look for people that are doing things differently, because that's what the market is demanding right now. And then I think the third option is selling to another MSP, and that I've been able to do that with 5 or 6 people that I'm connected with on LinkedIn that have approached me and said, "Hey, I want to get out. Do you know anybody who might want to buy my business?" And I don't take a cut. I just use the 14,000 connections I have on LinkedIn, and I have a handful that I know, like there would be somebody that I would sell my business to, knowing them.
Yep.
So please reach out. If don't feel like you're stuck. I just don't want people to feel like there are no choices, that I'm too far into this thing to make a choice and to make a different choice. So, Robert made
And the same, I was going to say the same here from the UK. If you're in the States, reach out to Andrew. If you're in the UK and you want to get out of your business, I could probably put you in touch with 5 people tomorrow, and within a month you'll have a concrete plan to get out. There is so much demand for a well-run MSP business that there's easy ways out, and you can make a ton of money doing it, hopefully.
Yeah, and it is, Robert's comment there, he's been in the community 10 years, and he said it. He's speaking specifically about the tech tribe. It helped him fast track his business in the early days, being part of communities. So, and I know Robert's, huge in the tech tribe. That's why I love Robert. Robert jumps on the show. He's been a regular for a while. It's funny because
Robert's surname, I'll have to check him out.
Robert Gibbons.
Okay, definitely a name I recognize.
Yeah. Complete go-giver. Robert, I've tried to get you on the show a few times. I'm still going to keep trying, my friend. But just an absolute, incredible human being. And again, that is a relationship that has come about straight off of LinkedIn. I have never met Robert in person. And we have a great dynamic together. And it was funny because when I didn't, the first show that I missed last year when we started this, Robert was one of the first people that messaged me. He just, "Hey, is everything okay? Didn't see the show go live tonight. Just wanted to make sure you're okay." That tells you a lot about humanity. That's what people are starving for right now. So I don't think it's going to be too much to make a difference on platforms like LinkedIn. So yeah, Robert's cracking up now. So I'm going to keep trying, my friend. So, all right, I got a big hitter. Somebody that, again, we talk about LinkedIn. We talk about making connections. This is one of the guys I got, Fulgence Henry. Thanks for checking the show out. He and I are both live streamers. I love live streaming. I'm an introvert, so it was really hard for me in the beginning. I am an INFJ introvert, so my wife still asks me, she's like, "I don't know how in the world you do that show. You just, COVID has been great for me. I'm a homebody. This has been the best thing to happen to me." Yeah. But yeah, people like Fulgence, connecting with people through platforms like this, through live streaming, I think is probably the biggest opportunity that MSPs have right now. So, and our coaching clients, I'm still trying to coax people into doing a live stream. It's not really any different than doing a Zoom call.
My fear would be the audience. What happens if you start the live stream and there's nobody there? I think we probably all run a webinar at some point. It's been at the wrong time or the wrong day, or just the topic was terrible. And you're sitting there at the top of the hour, about to start the webinar, attendees 0. What do you do? Do you go live anyway and hope for the best, or,
Yep.
or do you can it and decide never to start again?
You do. Fulgence, if you haven't, he's been doing a live stream with him and his wife, I think, since the beginning of the year. I just started following him a couple weeks ago, and then we connected through the eCam Live conference this week, Leap Into Live. But that's, Fulgence, if you have any advice for us IT nerds on this side, as far as live streaming, let me know. I'll have to I'll put it in the description if you're watching this on LinkedIn or YouTube as well. Check out their show. But I've learned a lot watching other people. But my advice is you do it anyway. It's just getting in the practice. When I went live for the first time on April Fool's Day, I'm like, okay, that was exactly the fear that I had. Nobody's going to show up. It's going to be crickets. Like, there's literally not going to be anything. Like, to my amazement, we had like 900 and some views on that, and I think 20 or 30 people were on live with me. And it was 8 o'clock at night Eastern time. But what I've learned about live streaming, what I've learned about myself, what I've learned about my ability to reach a global audience, you and I are sitting across from each other right now, thousands of miles away, because of the power of this platform.
Yeah,
helping
true.
other people. And I think that has a testament to what, and that would be my biggest thing if you're going to do something right now. Robert said, yep, you keep going, use snippets for marketing. I'm going to do a whole show about repurposing, how I'm repurposing this show into our marketing, into helping other people. So yeah, you're going to show up in some clips for probably a couple weeks after this show, by the way, Ben. So, Fulgens has some great advice.
I put my makeup on.
Yeah, go live anyway. Definitely stay consistent.
Yeah.
I have yet to find an MSP or somebody doing it regularly enough on either LinkedIn or YouTube Live. Like the software, the tools, the gear is, we all should be used to that. We're tech guys and gals. I won't leave them out. But it's not any different than running a Zoom call. But your impact when you do these live streams are amazing. And yes, I'm always amazed each week when folks tune in and show up for the show and contribute. And we see by the comments, people show up that you connect with. And I have people reach out that watch my show 2-3 weeks, a month from now, that will reach out. And some of those have become coaching clients. Some of them have gone through my courses. Some of them hey, we get on a Zoom call and I help them work through a couple things. But yeah, like you talked about it a little bit ago, it's just that reciprocation and that fear, that initial fear of nobody's going to show up. I used to do these in-person events as an MSP, like live in-room events.
I am dreading that. I think to those that don't know, I'm currently working with Zomentum, to a sales acceleration platform, because it solves a problem that I really knew a hell of a lot about. Like, if there's one thing I'm expert at, it's the pain of selling IT services to small businesses. That's my area of expertise. But point is, I'm dreading them. They're already asking me to do various kind of podcasts and webinars and stuff like that. I can see where this is going. I spent my school days working backstage, if there was anywhere near the theatre, never on the stage. And I can just see that at some point between Shruti and Ted, our channel chief, they're going to have me up on some stage I don't want to be on, absolutely terrified. And I'll probably nail it. But yeah, the in-person events, I suspect once I've done it once, it'll probably be easier. It's certainly been like that for the podcasts and stuff. But what I was going to say, I think the podcast or going live thing for MSPs is a great idea. And you're right, I've never seen anyone doing it, or certainly doing it effectively. And I suspect the hardest thing is going to be the content, because techies do not naturally communicate benefits of stuff well. They don't necessarily come up with things that are interesting to non-techies. And it got me thinking, like, I would challenge somebody to start a webinar, a going live thing about productivity hacks within the businesses. I'm working on a project at the moment and looking at basically how do we stop Calendly happening again. And by that, but what I mean by that is every business on the planet is using Calendly. Not a single MSP on the planet is getting a revenue cut from them using Calendly. How did that happen? How do we have all of these businesses who are probably clients of MSPs using tools like Calendly that they didn't get from their MSPs? And how do we stop that happening again? And so I think if MSPs started to focus a bit more on the next layer up in the stack, and I don't know where your cropping is, where my hand can be seen, but MSPs over the years have gradually worked their way up this technology stack. First of all, they started with cabling and the physical networking. Then they started managing the switches and the routers and the networking. Then they started managing the servers and then the desktops, and then they started looking at applications. And now finally we're up to a little bit of productivity. Microsoft 365, Google Workspace, those kind of platforms. But I think there's a whole other layer to go on that, and very few MSPs have started looking at it. And it's those vertical SaaS applications, the very specific things that these functional business leaders we were talking about earlier, the finance department, the marketing department, it's the tools they're looking for that they're going to go out and find on their own. If the MSPs don't find them for them before they know they need them or before they start looking for them, I don't know, bad example maybe, QuickBooks. The finance department went out and bought QuickBooks before the MSP got in there and said, let's help you find a finance package and get the project consulting revenue out of it, the licensing margin revenue out of it, increase their stickiness. So I think a great topic for one of these live streams would be around doing a weekly dissection of the vertical SaaS applications that are suitable to particular verticals, for example. Do a week where you talk about productivity hacks for accounting firms. Do some research, find out what kind of tools are going to benefit accounting firms. Each of the functional leaders within an accounting firm, help them find those tools, talk about them, talk about the productivity. Give. And then the chances are a leader within an accounting firm who heard you talking about how automated their business could be, you're going to be the obvious person to come and talk to when they're looking for an MSP. And I personally, I think that's a big thing.
Hit it, man.
Klaxon.
That is gold right there. And Fulgens, I know you're probably like, if you're still hanging out with us, like being out of the tech industry, like what would be something that you would like to see a highly technical person explain to make your life more efficient? But yeah, you touched on it, the fact that those applications are finding their way into networks, whether we like it or not, as IT providers.
Well, I don't know if it's still the term used, but we used to call it shadow IT.
Yep.
And shadow IT presents a big risk to businesses because they're unauthorized, unvetted applications. No one's checked the GDPR compliance of the application. No one's checked the data policies. No one understands them. You've just got some guy in the HR department or some girl in the HR department who's decided, hey, I need this application. Grant access, grant authority, admin login here. Disaster waiting to happen. We've got to beat shadow IT. And the only way to beat shadow IT is to beat the client to the problem and show them the solution before they even know it's the solution. And you get this stickiness as an MSP. They'll always come to you with the problems and not go onto Google searching for a solution to their problem and then opening up a whole can of worms as a result of it.
Exactly. Because I was on a coaching call with a client last week, and that's what he asked me. What can I start doing, that might be different than everybody else is doing? And I've been pushing him to do live streaming for a while. And it doesn't even have to be live streaming. If you feel easier producing a recorded video and just posting it, like that's fine too. But people are starving for context, not content. They want context in how do I make this stuff work for me to accomplish my goals as a business owner. And that is the gap that is there. And that is the gap, like you said, going that next level with how to help people with things in their daily lives. Like I had one MSP who said, hey, he's like, I don't want to be posting things on social media about like Alexa. She's probably going to come on now. She did.
I think mine did as well.
Yeah, probably. But I'm
listening.
I said, how many of your customers do you think have one of those in their house? I have 4 of them. I said, how many of your customers actually know that they can do this with it? I only have one button that I press in this entire studio to do this production when I come into the office. I literally give a command to her. All my lights come on. She reads me the weather and starts playing my playlist, my jams for the day. All of that is automated, and it literally took a few minutes to do. But that's the type of stuff people want, that context. How can I take a $50 piece, of equipment that I'm putting in my house anyway? One, be safe, but two, show me how to use it. Like, that's the content that I think MSPs that would be fun to me. And people are more open. We just got some stats on, like, the YouTube stats are like through the charts of the viewership on YouTube since last year, since COVID. That's not going anywhere. Like, literally, that's my TV every night. I watch YouTube. I get educated, and then I wrap it up with listening to music, and then I go to bed. That's my cable TV now through my Apple TV. But it's taking all of that complexity out of people's lives, helping them use their Apple Watch or their phone or whatever it is. Help them use that better.
Well, what we do as MSPs is slowly but surely becoming commoditized. And the concept of having a computer is commoditized. The fact of that computer having an antivirus program is commoditized. Having a backup is commoditized. Even Microsoft 365 now, it's commoditized. Everyone can do it. There's nothing to differentiate yourself. Hey, we do backups and we run them every 5 minutes. Commoditized. Everyone's doing it. You need to differentiate yourself to that next level. And I think, personally, I think that next level is these vertical SaaS applications, mastering them, understanding the opportunities, understanding your clients' businesses better. So many MSPs say, oh, yeah, we're the right-hand man. We deliver constant advice. We work within our clients' businesses. Bollocks. Most of them aren't going anywhere near their clients' businesses. They're delivering a laptop with antivirus. They're backing it up and they're calling it a day. What you really need to be doing is taking it to that next level. You looking at these vertical SaaS applications and finding the functional leaders and matching the functional leaders to the vertical SaaS, deploying it, and everyone wins. And that, quote me on it, I'm trademarking it, whatever. This I think is the future of MSP. The MSPs just don't realize it yet.
Yeah, and I saw that coming when I sold my MSP in 2014. We're coming up on, man, I can't believe it's almost a decade since I've been out of the day-to-day. But Robert MSPs need to deploy a virtual CIO into clients to be in board meetings to hear what the business plans are. And you don't get that seat at the table by selling antivirus, by selling a BDR. Like, you don't get that level by selling a commoditized thing that they can, quite frankly, go buy on Amazon. I mean, I've seen people do it. They go buy all this stuff on Amazon or order it from Dell and then want you to figure it out. Like, you need to be well ahead of that conversation. And that's why I think now, more than ever, the market has gifted us the opportunity to do that, to change the narrative and to change the direction of the industry. And that's what I'm leading and trying to lead that charge with people like Nigel, with people like yourself who are bought into the industry that we love and want to help people to embrace the change that is coming, whether you like it or not. It is coming.
The other thing, though, like, this is going to be a really unpopular opinion. Cybersecurity is commoditized now.
Yep.
To everyone out there trying to differentiate themselves by talking about cybersecurity, it's too late. It's already been commoditized. Clients expect cybersecurity. It's not optional. And stop using it as your differentiator. Vertical SaaS, go and find the next Calendly, and don't get shafted the way Calendly shafted us all as MSPs. Get in there, get those functional applications going.
It was when the big thing for us when I was running my MSP was Dropbox. Like, every MSP was afraid of Dropbox because it was the same thing. You can't make money from it, and I don't even know if I don't think that they even have a partner program to this day where you can actually make money off Dropbox. But how many of your clients have Dropbox installed on their computers at work? How many of your clients right now have Dropbox installed at home.
And I'm laughing because how many of those clients who have it installed are authorized to have it installed on their computers when they're supposed to be using the managed application? But
Yeah.
because you forced OneDrive on them, you've told them OneDrive and SharePoint is what they need. If it hasn't met their needs, they've gone off and found Dropbox and they've started using Dropbox, and you're not getting a slice of the pie. They're getting pissed off. They're going to sack you because OneDrive isn't working but that you tried to force on them, and they've gone off to find their own applications that work. Stop that problem before it happens.
Yep.
Understand your clients' businesses properly. Have the conversations.
Yeah, and I think that, that's where having regular conversations with your clients is, unfortunately, like I said, if you haven't been doing it up to now, that's why we're seeing the attrition. That's why we're seeing the exodus out of MSP businesses, because you haven't had those conversations. So, like, if that's not a part of your regular thing, like, it needs to be. Like, you need to have those regular, and it doesn't need to be a formal thing, because I thought that initially, because I think you and I talked about that last week, is when we're not there and everything's working well, customers are like, why are we paying you? And when things are on fire and not working well, customers are like, why are we paying you? So I didn't take advantage of that early in my MSP industry. When I had my MSP, I was doing those regular business reviews, and don't make it a technical review. So like Robert said, you need to have business conversations with people, and that may take some time for them to feel comfortable enough having those business conversations with you, but it can come. I started in order to get the QBRs rolled out and to get my customers comfortable with that process. I would do catered lunches for all my clients once per quarter, and I would go have lunch with them. You would be amazed when you sit down with people in an informal environment where it is not a business meeting, how much data you get out of people, how much people share. And
The more structured it is, the more likely you are to get attacked. And the more likely you are to get attacked, the less likely you are to do it. That was
exactly.
my experience. Even the happiest client, like, this is going to sound like I ran some dodgy shit, but even the happiest client, they'd had a dodgy ticket in the last week. They'd had one of their team complaining to them, say, oh, they've taken 3 days to resolve this issue. There's always something to attack you about. And so if you go into this super formal environment with this really rigid agenda, you're more likely to get attacked and derailed and distracted by irrelevant little minutiae, the one ticket that didn't get resolved quickly enough last week. And that will derail your entire process. If you can keep it more informal, you can have really sensible conversations, understand at a much higher level what's not working for them. And then, brings me back to these vertical SaaS applications, and helps you work out, okay, what solutions can we inject into their business that's going to solve these problems?
And
I love that. Lunch.
you
Take everyone to lunch.
you don't need to make money off of it.
No.
It would be nice. They're going to use it with or without you. You don't need to make money off of it. Embrace
So
it and figure out how to make it work and keep them safe.
there's three metrics there. There's the margin on the licenses, which is never going to be much. No one is getting rich off the licensing margin. The second one is the stickiness. Does the solution make you stickier? Does it make it harder to leave you? Does it add more value to your services? Does it help? Does it make you look better? So, the margin, there's the stickiness. But then the other one that I think a lot of people forget is the time saving within your MSP business, not having to deal with that problem anymore. A great example of that, Exclaimer email signature management. Before Exclaimer, we were spending probably half an hour per user per month dealing with email signature mess, nonsense, updating signatures. After Exclaimer, we'd spend an hour a month across the entire business just doing little regular updates. The margin on Exclaimer is like 20 pence UK, 30 cents a user. No one is getting rich. Frankly, it probably costs you more in the credit risk of invoicing that and the, your credit card processing fees. It's going to cost you more than that margin almost. But it makes you sticky. It solves a problem and it saves you time.
Yeah.
Oh, and maybe even a fourth metric, which is consultancy. There's wraparound consultancy around this stuff where there's mega bucks. Calendly, maybe, bad example because we missed that boat. But the process of choosing Calendly, doing all the data protection research on it, implementing it, there's a few $1,000s of consultancy work around doing it. And that's where the real opportunities are.
Yeah, and it's amazing, when you do that and you help people work through things, like how much easier it gets. And so if you're an MSP, want to know what type of content to produce, like that would be one of them. That would be a video that would go on my YouTube channel. You could do a whole live stream about how to make a email signature, because like you said, that makes tickets go away. That makes your business more efficient. That makes your customers happy. So, yeah, welcome Chris Tim to the show. Chris showed up.
Chris is a good friend.
Yeah.
Typical that he turns up like 15 minutes after we were supposed to finish. Thanks for supporting, Chris.
Yeah. So I know I want to be respectful of your time too, and like I said, we could probably talk and geek out all night as well. Robert did have a question. Let's switch gears a little bit and let's talk about where you're at now, why you made that switch to Zomentum. So if you don't know who Ben is, he's the product manager at Zomentum. So let's talk a little bit about what you guys are doing and some of the problems that you guys are looking to solve as well. And I'm going to dig up Robert's question. He had a product question here in a minute.
Sure. So I joined Zomentum because it was that vendor that I resonated with, and there's no better way to put it. Like, they were building the solution to the entire sales problem within an MSP business. I spent years trying to solve the sales problem within my MSP business. And when I looked at Zomentum and the way it takes you from the point at which you have an opportunity all the way through to getting a signed contract, helps you do the assessments, put together the sales presentation, get the quote and the proposal signed off, go through the negotiation. It helps you with all of it, all the way through to getting a signed contract through the e-sign, and then it drops it into your PSA or your accounting for the onward journey. And so what I saw, like I said, was the solution to every problem within MSP sales. So joining them as a product manager just made complete sense. I think if you asked our CTO, he'd probably say I'm a terrible product manager because I don't really do any direct product management. I don't think if you assigned KPIs to a typical product manager, I probably hit none of them. But what I can do is have really powerful conversations with people within the MSP community, speak the same language, convert what they're telling me into product features, and communicate that to the rest of the product team. So if there's anyone out there who's using Zomentum that has stuff they want to see it do, I'm the person that can get that done. Talk to me, reach out, send me your crazy, wacky, bonkers ideas, and as long as they're not too crazy, wacky, bonkers, I'll get them done. I'm here to represent the MSPs within Zomentum.
Awesome. Robert actually had one, and it doesn't sound like too crazy of idea. He's actually a Zomentum user, loves the application, so awesome. Thank you, Robert. When will we see a tablet app rather than just in the browser? That's his.
Okay, so good one. On the one hand, I want to pull my hair out about that whole problem. On the other hand, I do now kind of understand it. The organization's belief, which I do now stand behind, is that an app is not the way forward. What we should have is a fully developed mobile experience within the browser, because apps are usually a terrible stripped down example. I don't want to call out any names out there, but my PSA back in the day, the mobile app version of my PSA was totally unusable. Even logging into it on my iPhone and looking at it through the web browser was a better experience, even though it wasn't built for that. And a lot of it didn't work, it was still better. So I think the solution is going to be through having a more a better mobile experience through the browser. It generally works. I'd say 95% of it works on a tablet. The one I really want to challenge is being able to use it on an iPhone in portrait mode. At the moment, if you flip it around into landscape, it mostly works. I want to get that working properly in portrait. But I mean, Robert, look, it should work. Landscape on a tablet, everything within Zomentum will work at that viewport, it's called.
Awesome. So if you're watching the show, say hi in the comments. If you have questions for Ben about Zomentum, if you're watching this on the flip side on the replay, drop those in the comments. I'll make sure that those get forwarded on to Ben as well. But yeah, I put your LinkedIn address right there on the screen. So if you haven't connected with Ben, it's Ben Spector #1. He is the only.
I don't know where that came from. When I think everyone does it. It takes me back to like my MySpace days. You create a username. Oh, Ben Spector's already taken. Why don't you use Ben Spector 1? Okay. If I was doing it again, I'd probably go for like Ben Spector MSP or something a little bit more meaningful. Maybe I'll change it later. But yeah, for the minute, Ben Spector 1.
That's all good. Ben, thank you so much for sharing your insights today. I appreciate it. Like I said, I know it's evening time for you. Thank you so much for hanging out with our Team Orange Do What Is Necessary crowd today. We really appreciate it. So,
thank you. It's been a pleasure. Really enjoyed it.
Awesome. Like I said, reach out to Ben if you haven't connected with him already. If you want to learn more about Zomentum, Ben and I are going to be, we've actually started the ground on doing some cool things with Zomentum. So we've got a lot. I'm going to throw that as a sneak peek. So before you go, Robert did have it. One of the things I love about Zomentum is the support. Very fast and really great to work with. So kudos
to hear that. Thank you.
Yeah. So, yeah, he's going to take that feedback, obviously, to the team. We know how hard it is to provide awesome customer support. And that's one of the reasons I wanted to have you on the show. I talk all about sales marketing, one of the toughest things as an MSP. So thanks for giving us your insights. Thanks you for leading on the channel side with Zomentum, helping bring about that changed and organized change for the MSP industry. So thanks again, man.
Brilliant. Thanks for having me.
Thanks so much to Ben for hanging out with us today. We probably could have geeked out for easily another couple hours talking about sales and marketing, IT industry, all that good fun stuff. So if you're still hanging out, what was your number one takeaway from today's show? Anything Ben and I talked about? Yeah, I would love to, if you're having problems, you're stuck, you're thinking about selling, let us know. Or if you're just thinking of, you want to stay with your business, but you just want to know how to conquer that mountain that is sales and marketing, I'm here to help. So we do have space if you want to grab merch. I forgot to do a giveaway. So Ben's still listening. DM me your address, Ben. I'll make sure you get a sweet t-shirt. So you can support the show by going to orangenomad.com/merch. I would appreciate it. Get a nice sweet Team Orange t-shirt. I was hoping to send one ahead of time to Ben, but didn't make it. So, but if you're looking to conquer that sales and marketing, I don't do any sales on this show, but I do have a class that's going to be starting up October 1st. So if you haven't heard of the MSP Growth Map, we're going to have very small classes where we do live streams just like this, where we're going to help you in 30 days to conquer and master and put systems and process in place for your sales and marketing to hopefully bring about the calm that you're looking for inside of your MSP business. Because that's what I'm all about. Turning hustling entrepreneurs, especially tech entrepreneurs, into calm, unstoppable CEOs. So I'd love to have you in that 4-week class that starts October 1st. But those of you who have gone through it, thank you. Robert being one of them, we appreciate it. So that wraps the show for me. Thanks again for hanging out with me this week again. If there are topics and questions that you'd like to see us cover in the future, please drop those in the comments. Reach out to me on LinkedIn. If you're watching this over on YouTube, please subscribe to our YouTube channel. So thank you to all of the folks who got us to 100 subscribers. We registered the Orange Nomad channel name last night, so happy about that. So as I end every single show since we've started, always be humble and kind, and always, always, always do what is necessary. I'll see you next week.